Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we're talking about Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, as picked by Kyle. We'll get into the whole saga of me trying to watch this fucking movie yesterday, but first I want to know about Kyle. Why'd you pick this movie?
Well, so this movie had eluded me for a long time.
It eluded me for an entire evening.
That's true. I knew it by title, and I knew it by maybe like some Fangoria advertisement in like for the DVD when the DVD came out, right? But I did not know its content. So I heard a couple people speak highly of it. And I saw on Turner Classic Movies one night when I had TCM that it was going to air at like 2 a.m. And they always throw in some like really weird or hard to find shit on Turner Classic sometimes, like in that late night slot. So yeah. I recorded it, I watched it, and I was just like, what the fuck is this movie? Yeah. It was wild. And then it came on and off of a streaming service one time. Or no, I'm sorry, I kept the recording like on DVR to show people. And I watched it like 2 or 3 times that summer maybe. And that was a couple years ago now. But then I upped and I got the Blu-ray when they released it. Code Red released it. And I'm so glad to have watched it with y'all and for this show. Because, man, it just keeps on giving. It's so wild.
So here is my situation trying to watch this movie. So it was free on Shudder. Perfect. I've got Shudder. Not a problem. I'm currently doing this really dumb thing where I'm dog sitting for 2 different houses at the exact same time, which means that I'll wake up at one house, let the dogs out, feed them, hang out for a half hour, drive to the next house, let those dogs out, feed them, hang out with them for a couple hours, then bounce back. Like every 3 hours I was bouncing between houses until bedtime. But in the middle there I was like, all right, let me run to my house where I know that I have Shudder downloaded, and I'll watch this movie real quick because it's only a 90-minute movie. Sit down on the couch, turn on Shudder, and it like wants me to log in. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll use the password that I use on everything. Doesn't accept the password. Try like 2 or 3 backup passwords that I have locked in my brain. None of them were working. So I'm like, fuck. All right. Forgot password. Go to do the forgot password change. And it keeps saying, you don't have a user. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I definitely have a user. I've been paying for said user forever. So I'm like, all right, I can't spend all day trying to solve this problem. Is it available anywhere else? I'm like, a lot of Shudder stuff's on Tubi. Maybe it's on Tubi. Not on Tubi. Available on Amazon Prime. I said, fucking, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'll spend the $4 to rent this movie. And I hit play and I'm like, man, this looks real modern for a 1983 movie when the movie starts playing. They didn't send me the right movie. I rented Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. It sent me a movie that I love, After Midnight, but not the movie that I needed to watch at that time.
Like the most recent After Midnight?
Yeah, like from like 2
Jeremy
years
Gardner?
ago. Yeah. I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why I paid $4 for it, but I kept trying to refresh. I'm like, this has to work. I'm trying to find an email address where I can contact Amazon Prime about their mistake. Not that they're going to respond to me at 10 p.m. on a Friday and be like, oops, our bad. Here's the movie that you need. So then I'm like, can I download this? Every time I try to click a file on Pirate Bay, it's like, nope, you don't have permission to download this bad boy, so I don't know what's going on with my computer, but now I can't use Pirate Bay on my laptop.
Oh
I'm like,
God.
Now, Kyle, you don't know about this. A former friend who I have not spoken to in years at one point lent me 2 giant binders of DVDs that are just some of the trashiest horror that I've ever seen. So then I'm like, maybe the disc is in here. So I'm going through these binders. Nope, disc isn't in there. But I did find a DVD for Mosquito in there. So sweet.
Yes, that's still a win. You needed something.
There's like bullshit in there, like don't eat the grass, but like not Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Like, are you fucking kidding me? So I'm getting like frustrated, and I'm like, now I'm like texting the group. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I'm like becoming panicked. Scott's like, it should be on Shudder. So then I try to use my bedroom TV. I tried the basement TV, couldn't get in. Tried the upstairs living room TV. Go into the bedroom. The bedroom wants me to log in as well. Won't accept my password. But finally is like, you can use this code. So I finally get logged on to Shudder on my laptop, which I wasn't able to do earlier when I was trying to reset the password. Get logged in, put in the code. Now I go to search. None of my search works. I type in the letter N, and the only title that shows up is Slaughterhouse, which you might notice doesn't have the letter N anywhere in its title. And I'm like, this is fucking insane.
So it's got to be a Shudder problem. Like, it must have been a Shudder problem.
Shudder had to have crashed somewhere. So I literally had to scroll through the entire list of movies trying to find it on my TV. Because, God forbid, Shudder puts their shit in alphabetical order. It's just chaos.
It's chaos.
So I finally find it. And I had lag issues the whole movie. So it was like 5 minutes of movie, pause for a couple seconds so I can catch up with the rest of the movie. So it took me almost 2.5 hours full time to find movie and situate myself to watch movie. That being said, this movie was a blast. That was a long-winded way to say that I had a good time watching this.
I'm glad that you still were able to enjoy it despite all that. I don't know if the
bar kept getting raised, Kyle. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this thing better be fucking good for this. But within the very opening scene, I was like, okay, this was worth it. Like, which maybe I missed something. I feel like that opening scene has very little to do with the rest of the movie beyond just a shocking way to kickstart the film. But
kinda, because like it really the importance of having that scene in the beginning did not necessarily feel that important to like how they tried to tie it together at the end. Like, I understand like why they needed that parent death scene, but then the twist that they tried to add, I was like, I don't need the twist. Like, she's just a crazy person.
Yeah.
Like, Susan Tyrrell in this is fucking batshit crazy insane. Like, unreal performance. Unreal performance from her. She's out of control. In her honor and in the honor of this movie, I'm drinking a glass of milk.
Oh, perfect.
Carly
so
only put
going back to sleep as soon as we're done.
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah. Carly only put a little bit of something special in there for me. No, she didn't. This is just whole milk that I stole from my son,
whole milk. Okay, you are fucked up.
What are you doing, man? Give me the thinnest, almost water milk I can drink.
Okay, guys.
Give me that skim milk, baby.
Me and Hunter are trying to bulk up. Okay?
Just drink some creamer next time.
Butcher Baker stomach ache maker.
Which, can we talk about how this has got to be one of the worst titles?
Terrible title.
And the other title sucks too.
Yeah, the other title actually sucks worse.
Yeah.
Like, Night Warning is awful. My friend and filmmaking partner, Bill, he does this podcast called Outside the Cinema, and they've done this movie accidentally 2 more times than they intended to do it once, and then they didn't realize that the title was different, and then they watched it and they're like halfway through they're like, oh, we've seen this one, and then they did it again years later. I'm like just forgetting. Terrible titles. I like that it's called Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, but it's a mouthful, and obviously, I mean, it wasn't easy to find even not alphabetical. So sorry Matt, but bad name.
You know,
not the best.
Before we get too far though, that parent death is like really graphic.
Mm-hmm.
There's this one shot that I went back and watched about 3 times where the log goes through the driver's side of the windshield, and the dummy that they had for the man behind the wheel its head literally disintegrates. I was
Yeah.
really impressed with the
Yeah.
work that they did on that.
That was one that I
prop.
went back on a few times too. Like it's not comparable to the Omen's decapitation scene, but it's in the same way that I went back and watched it numerous times to see every like bit of how it happened. I felt similarly with this one. That was like one of the first ones I did after that.
You know, I do want to ask you guys, since we're on this topic, and I don't know when we'll get on this topic again, but I'm sure we've all had things that we've done, like the frame by frame watching of to try to like crack the code of.
Yeah.
Were there any other ones? Because I know two of mine that I like absolutely sat there and was
In
like,
this
I
movie?
want. No, just in general, like in your childhood, like when you're like becoming obsessed with like practical effects, both good or bad. Because the two big ones was I watched, and this one's a fucking nightmare from start to finish. If you do, is the Large Marge sequence.
Yep.
If you watch that frame by frame, like every single shot of that is just horrifying because the very first shot is a very dead-eyed claymation
Yeah.
face.
Oh, yeah.
Just staring at the camera. And then on the opposite end, Jaws the Revenge, when the shark blows up, it is the shittiest model you'll ever see in your life. So if you want a good laugh, go frame for frame of like, it's a shot of a giant prosthetic shark with a ship bow poking into it for one frame, and then the very next frame is like Hunter made a shark out of clay and a toy boat, and then it's that from a different angle, and then the next one is just it exploded.
That's movie magic, man.
Yeah,
That's fucking movie magic. I'm sure after we stop this podcast, I'll figure it out. But the immediate one that comes to mind is just going through every bit of the werewolf transformation in American Werewolf. You know what I mean? And then I think there is another part of American Werewolf when the Nazi werewolves come in. And I think I don't know if there was like a head explosion or some effect that happened during that one that I was really fascinated by. But that's the one that comes to mind immediately for me.
I mean, I didn't have any that I watched like special effects wise to try and understand what they did, but I'll tell you that green Twi'lek slave girl dancer in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I definitely frame by framed that a lot when I was about 13.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine why. I wrote down a note that I thought was a joke note at the time, and then I watched more of the movie. But the second note that I have written down just says, they're making me think that this aunt wants to fuck this kid.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was just a bad performance thing. And then the movie kept going. I was like, oh
no, that's
okay.
that's true. That is the actual cold hard truth. The moment I knew that she was a fucking psycho was immediately after when they're like 14 years later and they show her sleeping next to a lit candle. She was asleep next to a lit candle. And I was like, okay. And then she came out of her nightgown with socks on. She was wearing her nightgown with socks. What a maniac, dude.
I just want to point out also, she's sitting next to a candlestick, the only word removed from the actual thing, Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker.
It's just such a sleazy movie.
It is very sleazy.
It is the sleaziest movie made in like 1980 that didn't
And so glossy though too.
Well, the thing is that this is like, it feels like as sleazy as Basket Case. It's just not in New York City.
Yeah, but it's also like one of those things where, I mean, there's a lot of double features that came to my mind while watching this. Like, there is a lot of films that have that level of sleaze, but it's kind of one of those things where I don't know who this movie is for, and I was kind of blown away by how much dialogue there is about this film because of, like, we talk about Freddy's Revenge. We even talk sometimes about like Lost Boys having like a little bit of gay subtext, and there's not even subtext. This is just straight up.
Yeah.
This
is the text. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is a gay character, and they are dealing with homophobia. Lot.
Is Billy?
Which that's got to be the most common horror movie character name, right? Billy.
Probably. I mean, it's because no one cares about the dudes in horror movies except for, like in this and Freddy's Revenge. And that's fine. I think that one of the big things about horror when I was, getting into it, probably when I was 12, 13 years old, I really liked the fact that I could go to horror and the main character was the majority of the time a woman, which you didn't get in sci-fi. You really didn't get in a whole lot of fantasy.
Right.
And I always was drawn to that. And listeners, make what you want of that. I don't give a fuck. I'm 40. So like your opinions mean nothing to me about like my upbringing. But in that same way, whenever I would play not every time, but when I would play, I don't know, Street Fighter 2 or like literally any fighting, Mortal Kombat, like any fighting game with my buddy Eric where you could be a female character, I was usually going to pick the female character. I just thought they were fun. And I don't know, and so I think that it is because so much of media, at least at the time, was dominated by a more macho, and I read a lot of comic books, and so I loved the X-Men because there were a lot of female mutants that were that had cool fucking powers, those were the places that I could see a little bit more equity.
And that's what becomes so frustrating when you jump into 2022 at times, where it's we've got 3 different geek properties happening simultaneously right now, right? We've got the new Star Trek show, we've got Obi-Wan, and we've got Miss Marvel all happening, and there's a bunch of people complaining about those things being too woke when it's that shit's been woke since it was created in the 60s. You know what I mean? All 3 of those properties have always been super progressive, so it's you just chose to ignore that subtext for 40 plus years.
Right.
And now we're throwing a hot button thing. I want to draw attention to in the wiki there's a really great breakdown of all of the different themes that are in this movie.
Oh, I read that too. Yeah, go over that, please.
Yeah, I want to specifically go over the portrayal of homosexuality. It says, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker has been noted as an early film to portray a homosexual male as a positive figure, specifically Billy's gay basketball coach, who is subjected to homophobia and later comes to Billy and Julia's rescue in the final sequence. Steve Easton, who portrayed the character, recalled that the screenplay did not sensationalize the character's sexuality. He's just a gay man. He's not a pervert. He just likes men. He's got a boyfriend, and his boyfriend has been murdered. And I think
even beyond that, I think that was his husband, right?
But they wouldn't be husband then. That's the only thing.
Well, they were partners.
But yeah, I was with the ring especially.
And I guess that. Sorry, let me backtrack just a little bit on why I said that. I guess that the rings imply a deeper connection than just being they cohabitated, they had life plans together. This is not the most fun that we've had on the show. I'm so sorry to people listening that were expecting a laugh a minute for Butcher Baker.
We'll get there. I got something about a basketball jersey later on.
All right, cool. But I guess you don't have to get married. Getting married is fine. I'm married. Kyle's married. We can vouch for the fact that being married to our spouses is awesome. Our respective spouses. I don't know what it's like to be married to Carly.
Yeah.
But
it's great.
Yeah.
She gave me milk.
Gives some milk in the morning.
But she brings you milk. Yeah. Standing in front of a bunch of people and having someone say you are now married, and then having paperwork that literally tells the government that they can tax you in a different way is not the same as making a commitment to another person emotionally.
Correct.
And so I guess that I really loved that about this movie. I really loved the coach. He was my favorite part of the whole movie. I love the fact that he rescues people because he could have just been another victim. I mean, and he was it felt vindicating, he was the victim.
Characters were, right?
Yeah,
the 80s gay
or
characters were
if they were
the
even
victim
there,
or the villain.
Yeah.
Or not there at all. So that's
it's hard to watch this movie and not see the detective as the villain. He is the bigger villain because he is I guess in the diagram he would be lawful evil because he literally is law enforcement.
Law, yeah.
And he's terrible. He says the F slur a lot. He just really, I do love the fact that the three main adults in this commit so heavily to their characters.
Yeah.
And I guess I would say that the gay coach character is the most muted of the three because it's impossible to not be the most muted compared to a psychotic mom who has faked being an aunt for 18 years, who wants to fuck her son and murders people to keep her son around, versus a homophobic, racist bigot who is the police chief or head detective or whatever, who literally just wants to pin this on someone he hates for for what he considers a life choice, and it's not a life choice. You literally are born that way. So,
and it's mirrored so well when he does bring in the Hispanic man, for no reason. Like we have no context of why he's bringing in this Hispanic man, but he literally pulls out a gun and asks where his house is. So it's like he has no like context for like it's just clear as day that this dude is a bigot, but they play it so close to the chest, it feels like, because as any horror movie, you start to wonder and start to like, you have to start siding with, we don't have to, but they ask you to side with law enforcement like first because to try to figure out, you know what I mean?
Sorry.
Like it's pitched to you to start with the opposition to the murder. Yeah. Right, but then you quickly develop into siding with a slasher or a murder or whatever.
We see that first murder, and so we never really side with the cop.
No, that's true. That is
I think
true.
That the whole point is
but we're also stuck in the middle, just like Billy is, because Billy, like those are two villainous characters that we end up realizing more and more as time goes on. So we are kind of stuck with Billy, who is very confused, who has not been given like the truth in any matter here, and the gay coach has to be muted because he also has to fear for his own life and his own safety, even though he's saved so many others, so to speak. It's just it's just the dynamic is wild. The dynamic is a wild. I was really happy
with the watch of this because I knew that it was coming down the pipeline. Because I remember like, in the fall, you said that you had watched it and you were blown away by it, with how good it was for what it was. And I was like, well, I know I'm in store. I know something fucked up is in store. I didn't quite realize I would get this level of skeeve from it.
Oh, it's transgressive sleaze. It's so it's exactly what I want.
We have to talk about the director for a second because the director of this movie is insane.
Yeah.
Like their credits before this movie.
Credits are nuts.
So this is one of the last movies of William Asher, right? William Asher has been directing television since the 50s.
Yeah.
He was a director of I Love Lucy. He directed episodes of The Twilight Zone, The Patty Duke Show, The Donna Reed Show, Bewitched, Gidget, The Paul Lynde Show, and then he went on to direct all of the Frankie and Annette Beach movies.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is the wildest of all of this.
This was his first directing gig since the 60s. He dipped out and then came back for this.
Yeah.
And that's like one of those things where it's like, but I think, you've got someone who's working with Rob Sterling and they're working with Paul Lynde, and maybe that gives me this cool vibe of like, this is a dude who at the time that he's making this movie is in his 60s or 70s, but has spent his entire career working with progressive people, working with Lucille Ball, working with Rob Sterling, working with Paul Lynde. So of course he's not going to take a homosexual character and turn them into a joke, because he's like, no, I've seen the real life, seeing the struggles of Paul Lynde having to be a closeted gay man through most of his career.
So I know who Rod Sterling was. Who's Paul Lynde?
Paul Lynde was a comic from the 60s who the thing that most people connect him with is Hollywood Squares.
Oh, okay.
He had he had a similar to like I don't want to do his voice per se, but he has a very iconic voice. If you ever watched Bewitched, he was Uncle Arthur on Bewitched.
Oh, okay.
He's the father in Bye Bye Birdie, but he was almost always the center square in Hollywood Squares. He was the guy you would throw to, and he'd be like, "Oh, I don't know." Like he had like that kind of like.
That was good.
Not bad at all.
But yeah, he's working with all of these people who at their time are like these progressive, trailblazing characters. So I think that the director choice alone helps this movie, because in the hands of someone else, it could have been even sleazier, and it could have been way more offensive and with way less love and appreciation for their characters.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Yeah.
I do love this idea of, like kind of linking it with Mark Patton's character in Freddy's Revenge. The kind of like the idea of the Mary Sue, right?
Yeah.
And it's so fun to watch those characters kind of walk around like dumbfounded, like a real Mary Sue, and to see a male character doing that, especially in an 80s movie, lends itself to a really interesting watch. So like this was, I was very happy with this watch. I don't quite remember why I had a note that said, "Kyle, what is this?" But
is it the basketball scene? Because I had a lot of questions about the basketball scene.
I don't know about that, but right before that, I said, "See, people have always bitched about gas prices, so you're not special in 2022.
You're not special. You're not doing anything new." We see a young Bill Paxton, which is so lovely.
Oh,
so
that's
lovely.
why I said rest in peace, Billy P. Bill Paxton.
Yep. And my favorite
I guess that's
thing,
confusing when there's a character who's also Billy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Billy is my second favorite player to wear the number 23. I'm sorry, Michael Jordan's my second favorite player to wear the number 23. Billy is my first. Wearing that number 23 jersey, just fucking sinking him until his mom poisons him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't go to
asshole.
college.
Yeah.
What? When you break down the reasoning behind any of this, it is
there's a lot
chaos.
of Munchausen syndrome in this movie. Or I guess Munchausen by proxy in this movie.
Bro, it's all over the place.
We are also
the house is built on Munchausen by proxy.
I love the fact that this is the first podcast where we're like diagnosing this psychosis. We've seen a lot of psychos on this show.
Yeah. Well, we have to pay Carly to do it, so we can't.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
No, but I do.
That's why I'm here.
I mean, they get to the crazy pretty quick, but like the switch in his aunt that turns out to be his mom, when she's just like the first 10 minutes, it's like she seems normal enough, but then it's like the second someone implies Billy's going to go away to college, it's just like motherfucker.
That's what she wants him to be, dude.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's fucking right. No, that's she was just so overprotective and holding out for him being 18 and not realizing that he's not gonna want to be there anymore, dude.
I could never.
I wouldn't want to be there at all. But Billy just gives her so much room too.
Yeah. Oh, him just bare ass talking to her before he even steps into the shower in the bathroom.
Asks for the towel to cover him up from her.
Yeah. I'm like, this is chaos.
It's nuts.
This movie is 40 years old.
Shit.
What's fucking amazing is that the bigot cop, his line of reasoning about a gay man turning straight boys gay just by being around him is the same fucking logic that we're fighting in 2022.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yep. It's insane.
It's if he would have called the coach a groomer, I would have been like, well, that guy's going to the Senate. Yeah, it's insane.
No fucking kidding. It's very progressive, transgressive, and just I highly recommend anybody seek this out, because you get the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah.
You get some progressive shit and some absolute sleaze, and I love it.
I would say it's progressive, transgressive, and a little aggressive.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking aggressive. Maybe a little suggestive too.
We are also a beat poetry podcast this week.
Yeah.
Support for Horror Movie Night is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code HMNPodcast at manscaped.com. If your math is correct, that's about 8 million balls. Well, guys, I don't know about you, but I got that performance package 4.0, and man, oh man, it has been a game changer. I've had the lawnmower for a little bit, actually. Manscaped sponsored another one of my podcasts, but I have been having nose hair issues for years, and that weed whacker took care of that real fast, I will tell you.
Dude, I've got a schnoz. Like, I do. I got a schnoz.
And this is the schnoz cast, okay? Like the three of us.
I'm 30, so I don't have, 60, 70-year-old man nose hair yet. But it's starting to curl. It starts to curl right at the nostril, right?
Mm-hmm,
and it's noticeable mostly to me, luckily. So I'm like, I want to take care of it early, and this thing is so good.
We got to talk about the lawnmower a little bit because, like, between the three of us, we do have 6 nuts, not necessarily evenly divided, but like being able to get that clean shave with this thing, they've never felt smoother on this end. I can tell you that much.
I mean, I can agree. Matt's balls have never felt smoother. Having tools at my disposal to make it faster, easier, and more aesthetically pleasing, I'm not going to say no to it.
A really great feature is that the Lawnmower 4.0 specifically, it's waterproof and it has a 400K LED spotlight, so you can get that.
I love the spotlight. I did not read the manual and know that it was waterproof, so I did not do it in the shower because I have never had a waterproof one.
Dude, your bathroom floor will never look cleaner now. Like, you can just go in.
Yeah, I don't want to have to clean twice.
What we're promoting this month through Manscaped is the Performance Package 4.0 specifically, because you get that Lawnmower 4.0, you get the Weed Whacker that we talked about, but then on top of that, you're also going to get your Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and your Crop Receiver Ball Toner that are going to change your approach to your hygiene routine. And then on top of that, they're going to throw you some boxers and a travel bag.
That DOP kit is sick.
And I'll tell you what, the boxers, when I did the last sponsorship with Manscaped on the other show, they sent me a pair of boxers, and they're great for like gym and running boxers.
Yeah, they're kind of like halfway between a regular boxer brief and like a compression brief.
Use our promo code, get a discount. You're going to get 20% off your purchase and free shipping if you use HMN Podcast when you go to manscaped.com. I'm going to repeat that, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using the promo code HMN Podcast. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Mom, can you just let the viewers know that they can get 20% off with HMN Podcast?
Viewers, you can get 20% off with the code HMN Podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Mom.
All right, Kyle, what is your double
I'm
feature with this crazy fucking movie?
I'm gonna go with a horror movie night classic too, called American Gothic.
You fucker! What am I gonna pick now?
I'm sorry.
Oh man, Scott, I got 2 that were actually I had 3 that were locked in my brain. I almost want to go last so I can say all 3 that were running through my head.
Do you need me to ramble so you can think about it for a minute? Because I'll try.
No, I don't. I'm not. I'm not doing a double
time.
feature. I'm literally not doing a double feature. I'm so upset with you right now. I thought that it was gonna be so sweet because I was gonna be like, oh, this is a double feature with American Gothic. The first time that Kyle was on the show.
I know.
But no.
I'm sorry. I stole it from you.
It's all right. We can share.
We can share it. I would love that. I would love to share.
There you go. And I'll just take 3.
Yeah,
and
do it.
If Scott decides I want to steal one of those, he can. So my brain went through the following thoughts. First of all, I'm watching the basketball scene, and I'm like, man, his jersey looks exactly like Michael J. Fox's jersey in Teen Wolf. I kind of want to watch
They
Teen
dropped
Wolf.
the F word, or the F slur a lot in Teen Wolf as well.
Only twice, but that's still 2 times too many.
Yeah.
But there was an absurdity level in this movie that also made me want to watch Tammy and the T-Rex. But what I ultimately landed on was the only movie that I can think of that I love so much that has an ant character crazier than this ant character, which is, of course, Sleepaway Camp. Another movie that is progressive, suggestive, transgressive, and aggressive.
Yeah. You know, while you were talking through that, I did find myself thinking of what I think would be an incredible double featuring this with The Invisible Maniac, because there's a basketball scene in that too.
Hell yeah.
I'm so sad that we picked that movie so long ago before Kyle could be on the show to enjoy it with us.
I would love to watch it. I think I actually I didn't realize that you guys had done it because I think I have it on my list. So
well, how about this? We can
insane.
make both you and Brian watch it. We could do a re-rental
Yeah.
Because
when
Brian's
Brian's
still
back.
never seen it.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be
Brian's-
lovely. I think
All
that
right.
also I realized that so I picked this and then I realized Joe Bob Briggs did it on the last drive-in like a week or two after I put it in for suggestion. So and then he paired it with or somebody paired it with The Baby, which is another one that I highly recommend. That's one from the I think like late 60s or early 70s. That one's fucked up. And that's a lot of fun.
What about Humongous? Is Humongous the one with the baby crib on the front cover?
I believe it is actually. Humongous does yes, because and it's spelled out in blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
That's
pretty
right.
sure that's Humongous. Ooh, I haven't ever seen that, but
I've never seen it as well.
Okay.
What were we talking about the other day? I got down it was one of our Patreon episodes.
Oh, we're talking about cover art?
Yes, yeah, cover art
Like-
that doesn't fit with what you expect it to be in the movie. And Humongous came up when I did a quick search, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Humongous. I've never seen it, but is that like kind of a mutant baby type? Not mutant baby, but like a deformed baby that grows up to be like this hulking beast of a man that kills people.
I would hope so.
I think that's what it is.
I would love that. The Baby is just about a man who is a baby, like very fetishistic baby. But it's really even weird. It's weird. I love it.
And then you could mix that with Spider Baby.
Oh hell yeah!
We're just doing word association. This literally is horror movie beat poetry night.
Kyle, what did you watch this week that you want to promote? Not that you had like some film festival that you've been viewing or anything.
I could talk about Chattanooga Film Festival for a long, long time, so I'm not going to. That'll be another time. But I am currently attending Chattanooga Film Festival, and they had the world premiere of Eric Pennycoff's The Leech. And The Leech is a movie starring Graham Skipper, Jeremy Gardner, as we mentioned After Midnight briefly earlier in this, and then his now wife, Taylor Gardner, who used to go by Taylor Zadku. I can't pronounce her last name, but
She only married him to have an easier last name to pronounce for us.
absolutely.
She knew that Matt has a problem with pronouncing names.
It was all for it's
No.
all for you, man.
You know what? Hold on a second. So I've been re-listening to my favorite podcast, Reply All, just released their last episode. So in honor of them ending, I've been re-listening to their entire show. And there was a quote from the one character. They always talk about how the one character has way too much useless knowledge. And I've never felt more seen than when he said, he's like, how do you understand so much stuff? And he goes, well, if it's any consolation, I can't pronounce any words and have no grasp of grammar. And I was like, oh my God.
That's yeah.
Can I tell you guys a real quick aside? Megan and I went to the wine bar down the street from us. It's kind of like our Cheers, but we're classy motherfuckers, I guess. But we were there and we were hanging out with some people from her Young Professionals group, and we're talking about high school, talking about being in theater and getting hand jobs in the back of the auditorium while you were having run-throughs. This one guy was like, so, did you have a sketchy-ass couch in your auditorium, outside your auditorium? And I was like, how did you know about this? And he was like, yeah, we had one too. And so we went around the table, and everybody had gone to a different school in Ohio, and everybody had that creepy fucking couch that like some things happened on.
Yes.
Did you guys have one of those in your high schools too?
We had one in the wings of the stage. Like it was certainly like a prop couch.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But it never moved and was never a prop for anything.
Ours was in the basement. We had like a lower level to the stage crew because that's where like, and we actually did well until we heard about how many people that had fucked on that couch. But
I'm literally just talking about hand stuff here, guys. I went to a rural Ohio school.
No, people straight up fucked on that couch. But the basement was usually where we would go to do like all of the stage crew setup. So like if we had to spray paint stuff or
were you
build something.
a stage crew guy?
I feel like you already know the answer to that question. Taking in my personality, like let's take my personality into account. Of course, yeah, I was stage crew in TV studio. I only appeared on stage 3 times, twice in my senior talent show and once in the Little Shop of Horrors production as Bill Murray's character. We got so thrown off.
Yo,
Where
I'm so
are we?
sorry. Yeah, you were talking about.
No, that's all right.
Chattanooga.
It's a movie called The Leech, and that's what I watched. And it was its world premiere. It's going to come out on Arrow in December. It's a holiday horror comedy, and like Eric Pennycoff he made Sadistic Intentions back in 2018, which was one of my favorite of that year. I might have talked about it on this podcast, and he just came back like with. I truly believe it's fucking dangerous cinema. Like, it is the way that the acting, like all the actors portray their characters is fucking unhinged in the best, in such a natural way. Like, the natural progression of where they go and how they present their characters is so, I've not seen anything like it, like, honestly. And it's fucking bonkers. It just takes, it's all about a priest who takes in a homeless man like the week before Christmas. And basically he just can't, the priest is trying to be the representation of God and Jesus by showing this man love and comfort, and he's using it to try to talk about in his posts and in his preaching, but like nobody's attending the church, so like he's like, this is what God has given me to do. Like, I have to like kind of take this guy in and just keep saying yes. But this dude is a drug addict and uncaring about like anything, and is totally stepping all over the priest himself. And Graham Skipper plays the priest, and he's just top notch, man. Like, I will shout it from the rooftops when this movie comes out and is available for people to see, because it's fucking incredible. That was one of my favorite things from Chattanooga thus far. I have 4 more days.
Nice. Scott?
I have a less. I liked this movie, but damn, it's hard to follow Kyle's enthusiasm for The Leech. So I watched The Feast. It came out at the end of last year. It is on Hulu. I just found out about it, so that's why I just watched it. It's a Welsh horror movie, and I think that it is one of the more interesting ways that you can tell a story, because it's kind of a revenge story, but it has a lot of twists and turns. I don't know if I think that it wasn't very well acted, it wasn't very well written, but I really liked the concept of it. And
the poster art's beautiful.
Yeah, and it does not tell you what is actually happening in the movie. And I'm being intentionally vague, because I caught on to what was happening. And they do the kind of, it's a little bit too highbrow, in my opinion, where they do the thing with chapter names, because they're like 4 quote-unquote chapters, and I thought that was unnecessary, but that's neither here nor there. That's just a personal preference thing. I believe that it was written and directed by the same person, so if I remember correctly, if I'm off base, they were definitely like tight, like it was a tight group. You could tell from the finished product, but it was just a really cool movie. It is, again, like I said, it's on Hulu. I would highly recommend, given the hour and a half. I think it's an hour and 35 minutes. It's not a long movie. I've watched a lot less in a lot longer time frame. Like there's a lot that happens. It's really cool, and I think that it's important for us to watch foreign horror that's not just from like Japan. I feel like the resurgence of kind of like European and UK stuff is important for us to check out, and I really liked it. I don't know if it needed to be a full movie, but it definitely filled out its time better than something like Censor.
Oh,
you remember Censor from last year? I know, Kyle, you liked that movie.
I haven't seen it, but I've wanted to. Yeah, I really wanted to watch.
Oh,
Censor.
you liked Censor? Fun. Okay. I thought that it was fun, but I think that it didn't need to be an hour and a half long.
No, I think
the
that
Feast did.
Evil Ed did a better job.
Yeah,
with the same
exactly.
Concept.
But yes, so I highly recommend checking out The Feast if you got an hour and a half.
Mayans TV show. By the time this comes out, it's still going to be on. A bunch of people told me to check out the newest season of RuPaul All Stars. I've never watched RuPaul All Stars, but they're like, no, you're going to love this season. And they're right. So RuPaul
I didn't realize you
All-Stars-
never watched All Stars before.
No, never watched.
Wow,
never
okay.
bothered with All Stars. So this current season of All Stars is all of winners from past seasons. So you've got like Raja, Jinx Monsoon,
Evie's in there, right?
Evie Oddly is on there. It's almost making me think this is how they should have been doing Drag Race for the last however many years, because there's no eliminations this season. It's just the 9 winners that they picked, and whoever wins gets a star, and then the 4 queens with the most stars at the end of the show are the ones that go to the final round, instead of it being like you have one bad day and now you're off the show, which I kind of love. But even if you don't watch any of this season, do yourself a favor and watch the Snatch Game, where Jinx Monsoon does the greatest Judy Garland that has ever been performed in television history. Beautiful. And then additionally, they did a special congratulations event where they all had to give high school valedictorian speeches, and Jinx Monsoon tells the funniest true story about being so drunk that she got hit by a car in Amsterdam, and uses it as a story about like, hey man, life's gonna throw you some crazy curveballs, but like you gotta just keep going. But it is so sweet and
Jinx.
so funny. Jinx was already my favorite drag queen, and this just did nothing but solidify that she is perfect at everything she does. So that was Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker from 1982, is picked by Kyle. We will be back next week with another movie that I'm pretty sure I picked the next one. So it's
Yes,
going to
that's
be a
how it
ball.
goes.
Tune in next week for that. Hit up our Patreon, patreon.com/HMN podcast for all of your podcast needs. And shoot us some emails, get us some listener submitted month stuff. And because that's right around the corner, that's next month. This next week's episode is the last week that you can submit a listener submitted pick. So get on that shit.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.